What is going on? I am back with another episode of Beats and Bowties, and I hope you all had a great week. And we're gonna get into the first topic. So, there has been an uproar in the producer community this month already about out of key 808s versus in key 808s or tuned 808s. And it's so interesting to me because when I think of the producer community, it's definitely an interesting place to be because, on one side, there's really the community part where people come together, they help each other out, and then there's this side where we're debating about having 808s in key and not in key, and I really don't get it. I think the main focus should be about making music, making beats, creating with artists, creating with other producers, collaborating and all that stuff. Because I feel like when we have discussions like these or debates or whatever, it really takes away from the end goal, right? And so all of this sparked from what it sounds like, the fact that the new Gunna album came out and producers were just talking about how the 808s were not in key, and personally I haven't listened to the album, so I wouldn't know, and more than likely I wouldn't be paying attention to it unless it was just super obvious that they were out of key. But to be honest, it really wouldn't matter to me because I'm not on the Gunna album, so obviously, these producers that are on the album, they made the cut, and it really doesn't matter in particular of like what other people's opinions are about it because they are not on the album, they didn't make the cut, it is what it is. So if you do in key 808s all the time, then that's great, but you still didn't make it on the Gunna album, and it is what it is. So it's not to say that your 808 should not be in key, but I can say for myself, every beat that I've made, I could not sit here and say that every single beat I've made that the 808s have been in key, because one, it has to do with knowledge, where I was at. I didn't even know much about having stuff in key, it didn't happen. And for me personally, now I do follow the root note typically when I make beats, just because it sounds better to me personally when I follow the root note and follow like the bass line that I have like in a melody or that I hear in a melody. There have been some times where like it's still on the scale but it doesn't start at the root note, and that's just not really my style anymore. I like to just stick with being in the root note and then maybe having some notes that are still in the scale but may not follow the like bass line the whole time. I don't know how to explain it to people that if you don't know what I'm saying, then it just sounds like a bunch of hoopla. But anyway, but the topic for this week is this because I just think it's so important to talk about these things. And not really about, do I think you should tune your 808s or not, because personally I don't care what you do in the sense of it's not my beats, it's not my production, and if that's how you do it, then whatever. I want to keep my 808s in tune. But, here we are. But the reason I want to talk about this is because the producer community, we need to focus on being a community more so than anything else, because we have a lot of things to worry about, like getting paid and, changing certain things so we can get paid, get credited and stuff like that, And so it would be nice if we really came together a little bit more instead of talking about like 808s and talking about should you use loops and should you not use loops, which brings me to another topic and point is, there's always been this debate around using loops and not using loops in beats, and people saying you should, make everything from scratch and all that kind of stuff. And here's the thing, music is music, and you're like, where are you going with this, MP? But what I'm saying is, when we create, that's the whole point of creating music. It's supposed to be a creative process. It's supposed to be, something that's enjoyable and fun, and however you do that is how you do it. So if you decide to use loops from your favorite loop maker or, a website or whatever it is, then that's how you enjoy to create. If you like to make everything from scratch, then that's how you like to create. If you do both, which is what I personally do, I do create stuff from scratch. I also use loops, samples, whatever the case is. Whatever is going to make the beat that I want to make at the end of the day, that's how I like to get it done. So it's just very interesting to see all these topics that float around in the community, and it's just, I personally think that we